Welcome to the Acumatica ERP podcast. Today we're joined by Acumatica CEO John Case. John has led the company into an exciting new era of growth, most recently with the Vista Equity Partner acquisition. And John's passionate about spearheading small and mid-sized businesses. Under his leadership, Acumatica has sharpened its focus on customer success, innovation, and culture. We'll dive into what's next for Acumatica and how its community of customers, partners, and developers is building the future of business together. Let's get into it. Hi, John. Welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, David. It's good to see you.
Yeah, you too. Super excited to be launching this new podcast at such an important time in Acumatica's history. We reached a big milestone this year with the Vista Equity Partner acquisition. Would you explain to our listeners what that means for Acumatica and how it reflects the growth we've experienced as a company?
Oh, yeah, sure. No, it's a very common question. We were owned by a different private equity firm, a company called EQT, for about 6 years. And we kind of came to the end of our natural cycle with them. These private equity funds, they buy and they sell companies. And we went out to the market privately and, talked to a whole range of potential buyers. Vista came in very aggressively and wanted Acumatica very badly. And so, paid for the privilege. But the great thing about that is what they're interested in and what we're interested in are basically 100% aligned, which I'm very, very keen on. When I talk to them about what they want to do, how it relates to us, they really value the things that we're good at. They value our product. They value our channel. They value the industry opportunity that we have. They value our tech stack and how clean it is. And so what's exciting about that is our growth interests and theirs are just super, super aligned. And the things they want to invest in are the things we want to invest in, building out more products, building out more channels, understanding how we, can grow our brand, all things that are really big parts of our next phase. And so I fully expect to be owned by Vista for, many, many more years. They have a long track record of buying and holding and growing companies. And I think that's we went from an A-list investor to an A-list investor. And I think from an Acumatica perspective, that's great. Nothing about this is about change or cost cutting. It's all about continuing to shepherd and foster and enable the growth that we've experienced so far and just continuing that path. And so for us, it was kind of an ideal situation.
It's awesome. Awesome. I recently read an article that you wrote that was published in GeekWire that talked about our secret sauce behind our company growth. And you made it sound so easy, but I know it's not that easy, right? John, opening paragraph says, make the software easy to use, find the key partners to drive sales, and learn on a community of users that help improve your product. Super, super profound. Would you like to maybe expand on that just a little bit?
Well, of course. I think that formula sounds very simple, as you're saying, David, right? It sounds like, why doesn't everybody do that, et cetera, et cetera? Well, there's lots of reasons that not everybody does that. One big reason is it's very hard to produce a product that resonates with that much of the market. And it's one that we only have one product. We have effectively one code stack, one set of, tools we write, you name it. We're not releasing 9 different things. We release Acumatica twice a year, right? And to do that in a way that speaks to all of our users across industry, whether it's a financial person or a person in manufacturing or whatever it is incredibly difficult. And so strong kudos to the team that has built that over many years. Folks like Ollie and Mike, et cetera, they've made an amazing contribution to the industry with the product. So the other thing I'd say is, then how do you think about your market plan? We know we're still a small company. We can't reach tens of thousands of customers alone. We needed expertise. We needed presence and specialization in these industries. And very, very clearly the way for us to do that was a channel. And, our channel for us has been the lifeblood of the company. It's been the way we grew the company from zero to where we are now. And that will never change as long as I'm, here at the company. Right. And that's a big, and that's what Vista wants as well. So right. I fully expect our channel to keep growing and, we'll add to it and we'll get, our small partners will get bigger and we'll be bringing on more partners in more industries and more places around the world. But for us, that'll always be the core of our business. And, they bring so much expertise, so much knowledge that they can reach a set of customers that we would struggle to reach with our small team. And that's a huge part of it. And then the community part, we'll talk about this, I'm sure, in the course of this discussion, but the community part around how we think we are part of a bigger thing, an ecosystem of users, builders, developers, you name it. Every company wants that. Every company wants to have a community that is basically fighting for them, fighting with them. We are the small minority of that community. I did a community keynote last week. It showed that Acumatica employees were 2% of the people participating in that community. A little thin blue slice, I think it was, or maybe it was purple. But I love that, right? Because what it means is the people that are really engaged, the ones that are driving content and awareness and word of mouth and, use cases and examples and sample code, it's way beyond anything we could accomplish ourselves. And that is a formula for success. And when customers want to work with us and they want to build on our platform and they want to share that with other users, there's no competitive zone there. It's about everybody contributes and makes the community better. And I think that formula is incredibly hard to replicate. And again, all kudos to people who built that over the last 15 years. I only inherited it 3.5 years ago. And so we've done a lot to help, but it's certainly not a formula that I created. I inherited it and it just helped it. That is a great way for us to say that is a magic secret sauce. It's super hard to replicate because other companies that want to compete in our space can't do all those things the way we have. It's taken us decades to build. So that gives us a great chance to keep building it, right? It's a moat around our position that we can continue to kind of foster, grow, and bring more people in. And, I could not be more excited.
Yeah, no, that is super exciting, right? I mean, nothing's more powerful than your ecosystem promoting Acumatica out there, right? That's priceless from a marketing perspective. Good stuff. I love to focus a little bit more on our customers, right? And such an important component of our ecosystem, right? But from the very beginning, Acumatica has always been focused on the needs of small and medium-sized businesses. Why is it so important that we keep a pulse on the SMB market, and what makes now the right time for them to modernize their systems, John?
Yeah, very good. I think, the first thing I'd comment on that is because we know clearly what our customer target is, we can build for that target. Right? We don't have to be assessing the needs of vastly different sizes of companies and vastly different, types of industries. Like we can say, no, our SMB customer, we can really define carefully what it is that they want. And we work with I think probably an underrepresented in the technology space set of companies like that. Like that's not, if you listen to big tech players or big SaaS players, they're selling often to very giant enterprises. And that's not our zone. Like that's not what we're trying to do. We're trying to sell to a customer we can define. Those customers have very strong needs, right? They want an end-to-end system. They want one thing that they can run their whole business on. They want us to do that. It doesn't have to be our code. It could be third-party code that integrates with us. But that gives us a very clear target to build for, which is important, okay? What I find with that customer set is that because they're kind of underrepresented in the tech environment, there's still tens of thousands of companies that meet that definition that have not flipped to a modern cloud system.
Right.
And so every year, 3, 4, 5% of them realize that it's time. I always wonder what's holding back the rest. Why aren't the rest moving? It's 60, 70% of the market, it's still are beginning to think about that. And they all intend to, right? They all intend to think that they're going to head to modern technology. But the moments that cause them to change are so wildly different. It could be a transfer of ownership. It could be new leadership in finance. It could be some problem that they had or some issue they're trying to solve. It could be financial challenges where they're realizing they need to get smarter about how they manage their money. And all of those things together lead to a wave of transition. But It's not one thing. It's many, many, many things. And so every customer I talk to, and I talk to dozens of customers a year, they all had their own unique reason. We really decided we needed this one particular feature, or we really decided that after years of waiting to close our books, we needed to find a faster way. They all had a reason, right? And with Acumatica, the great news is we can satisfy those reasons. There isn't one thing I think that we can't do for that kind of company when they're ready for it. If they want a modern cloud platform and to work on a browser, to work on a phone, we have that. If they want to think about an end-to-end system for their manufacturing company or distribution company, we have that. If they want to think about, better multi-entity accounting because they're coming out of something like QuickBooks, we have that. And so those customers find our end-to-end platform very much one that suits their needs. And their needs are so wildly different that it's, again, amazing that we can pattern all that together, but we do. And so I think for us, the next 10 years are going to be really exciting as we continue to find more and more ways to work with that customer set. And again, we can be laser focused on it. We're not distracted. Our channel helps us there. And here we go. Right. And that's what I find exciting about that opportunity and that customer target.
Yeah. Yeah. And what's amazing about that customer target is the from an economic perspective, how much of the economy, in terms of how many employees are employed by small and medium-sized businesses, right? It's almost half of what out there. So
and I find they don't swing always with the same economic trends. We find, big enterprises have been laying people off. Well, mid-market companies have been adding employment faster. Tariffs influence them different ways. There's all kinds of things where it isn't what's even talked about often in the news. They're talking about consumer spending or enterprises. The mid-market often gets missed. So I love having a pulse on that segment in a way that I think is unique. And we can, again, be very targeted and focused on what we do.
Yeah. Awesome. Cool. You mentioned earlier too, John, you spend a lot of time with customers, right? I remember when I sat down with you when I was first hired, you said, make sure you spend time with customers, make sure you spend time with partners, right? What are you hearing most about their business needs today? And how does Acumatica really fit into those conversations?
It's many things. So again, if it was one thing, it'd be a lot easier because it's many, many things. It really depends on the customer situation, time, you name it. Overwhelmingly though, right? If you speak to our partner group, which is, we connect to our partners all the time because that's effectively how we go to market and they do implementations and service and support. It's very easy to talk to partners at Acumatica. It's a little harder to get to the customer side because you have to go through a partner often to find that customer. And the customers are in interesting places. They are still, kind of watching the economy carefully. They're thinking carefully about kind of what the next 5 years will bring. They're thinking about their own growth and expansion strategies, but they're also still overwhelmingly positive. They see so much opportunity in front of them. The companies that are interested in Acumatica, the ones that are working with us, they're growth businesses many times, almost every case. They're thinking about how they're going to get bigger or how they want to transfer, their ownership to the next generation of their family or whatever it happens to be. And I sense overwhelmingly enthusiasm. I sense overwhelmingly positivity. I sense overwhelmingly, encouragement. And again, it's lifting all boats. It's not, I'm going to go win or this person. It's like we as a group will grow. The great benefit of working with these mid-market customers is 5 manufacturers. So I talk to all 5 of them in the same room. None of them are competing with each other. They love sharing their ideas. They love knowing that, what worked for them might work for them. And whether that's inventory management or supply chains or materials or whatever it is, like there's so much opportunity for folks to learn from each other. I think it's much harder when you're selling to enterprises because it's a much more competitive zone.
Right.
And I love that. And so I think that kind of community lifting all boats is not something that you get in most software businesses. That's one of the things I like about, and again, that creates that kind of positive attitude.
It sure does, right? And I think nothing is more, our whole summit, right? The whole conference that we have.
Great example.
That's an example of our customers coming together and sharing different thoughts and working and playing off of each other. It's super powerful.
The summit for us is, it's a celebration of the year we finished. It's where we're headed, right? All the things we want to go do. But overwhelmingly, what I find it is like a place for people to reflect and help each other and know how, here's this exciting thing that you might not know about. I love sending any potential customer to Summit because they will find people to talk to who encourage them to go use Acumatica. And it doesn't matter. I don't have to introduce them. I don't have to curate those experiences. They happen organically there. And I love that.
Totally. I worked for a company where they didn't want any of the prospects at the user conference because they didn't want to expose.
I want them all. I want thousands of prospects at our conferences. Yeah,
exactly. Love it.
Right.
So along the lines of community and customers and all that, I want to turn to Acumatica's rallying cry, which is building the future of business together. Right. It really captures the importance of community and the values that we share. The executive team recently communicated values to the rest of the organization. I want to give you an opportunity to talk about them and why they're important to Acumatica.
Good. Well, the rallying cry, we did that a couple of years ago. And what made me enthusiastic about that was something that came from one of our leaders who said, we need a new way of kind of explaining our role, a new way of explaining what we believe in. I love that rallying cry. It's in our advertising. It's on our website. It's everywhere. We certainly talk about it at Summit. And the words are very carefully chosen, like we are builders, right? We're all about the future, right? We're a future-proof platform. We're all about business, right? And we're all about it together. Together is that ecosystem, that community. And so we took a look at that again this year and said, you know what? We are completely committed to that rallying cry. It really frames who we are. It frames how we view the market, right? It frames our role. And I love that. And then, but we hadn't done it in a few years, was talk to employees about our values, like what we value as a team, what we wanted to hire for and reward people on, and what we thought we wanted our sort of image to be to some extent. And so we went through a process of rethinking that, and we kept some things the same, but changed some things. But it starts with being customer first, right? And I think that it's very easy as businesses get bigger to lose sight of that. I want the customer voice to always be the deciding factor. Okay. And then it gets into all kinds of other things around how we solve those problems for customers, being nimble, being pragmatic and kind of real world focused, thinking about how we go to, like, all those ways that I think customer first answers will come out, and being results oriented and accountable and all, like, that's our values. And so that'll all become public over time, more targeted at the employees and maybe our partners than anything else. But it should always reflect into that rallying cry, the rallying cry that says, this is why we exist. This is how we want to go to market. This is how the role we want to play in the ecosystem. How do we expect people at the company to play in that? And that's what those values are all about. And so we that's being rolled out right now internally. The voice of the customer should always tell you the right answer, and they're right. And so it's great to mind people of that and refresh them every few years.
I got to tell you, when you were delivering that in our company-wide meeting, values and all that, we had a chat amongst the product marketing team on the side, and people were like sharing hearts, and somebody said, that's why I love working for this company. So it resonated with the employees, John.
That was not a light project. We took a lot of care and thought lots of revisions, lots of drafts. Because it's all about your own voice too, right? How you would say those things. So
right. Yeah, for sure. I want to focus a little bit on the customer bill of rights, because that's pretty unique, right? So how does that make Acumatica different in the industry?
Yeah, the customer bill of rights has been around for a long time. We did do a modernization of it, I think about 3 years ago, where some of the things were seemed kind of outdated or no longer, didn't make as much sense in the current business. But the bill of rights exists to, again, a little bit like the rallying cry, to explain to a customer how we want them to perceive us. We want things like, clean security and, no simple fees. And we want things like, fair pricing. We want, like, it's sort of a set of promises to make to the customer. Like, this is who we want to be. Hold us to this standard.
Right.
Free online training. You can move your data, and you own your data if you want to. You can deploy it how you want. All those kinds of things. We took a look at each one and decided that each one of them either needed revision or was still valid, or we wanted to clarify it. But I love showing that to customers, because they look at that and they think, I've never seen a software company do this before.
No.
Certainly not in our industry. And I don't like talking about competitors, but certainly our competitors don't follow a lot of those things in our Bill of Rights. And so we're very committed to it. It's something that we will continue to promote and enhance. And again, we'll clarify it every few years. But I think it shows customers and partners, but shows customers our commitment is to them. It's not, our commitment isn't to, ourselves. Our commitment isn't into some technical idea that sits in the ether. Like, our commitment is to them. And that's what the Bill of Rights is all about.
Yeah. I know when I was, doing my due diligence before I came to work for Acumatica, I was very, very impressed by it. And all of my career has been in the technology space. I've never seen anything like it. So huge.
And neither did I. Like, I was very impressed by that when I got here. Yeah, totally agree.
Yeah, that's awesome. Awesome. So all that, our rallying cry, our values, this customer bill of rights, it's all about culture, right? And it helps shape the culture of Acumatica. And it's a huge differentiator. Why is culture so critical to our success, and how does listening to customers shape it?
I think it's very easy. It's all about the growth journey. It's very easy to have a strong culture amongst a few people at a small company.
Right.
It's very hard to have that same culture carry over as companies get larger, as we have, thousands and thousands of customers, hundreds and hundreds of partners, hundreds and hundreds of ISVs. Like, it's very hard to sustain that. And so to me, it becomes really important to put those words on paper, to talk about them a lot, to show examples of success. I mean, the company awards that we do internally are all about those values and the rallying cry, those kinds of things. You have to promote them more. You have to be louder about those kinds of things to make sure the culture survives. I'm constantly worried. One of my biggest challenges, I think, as a leader is, can I keep what's special about Acumatica together while we go through this aggressive wave of growth? And so,
not easy for all the time, right?
Not, but again, it's about who you hire, from a leadership down. It's about how you communicate. It's about your actions. Are you living up to the standards that you set for yourself in every way you possibly can? And there's always going to be tough decisions. There's 51, 49 decisions that you have to make all the time. What guides those decisions? A lot of it is culture. So, I think that for me is, if we can continue to protect the culture, that continues to make sure that Acumatica is very different than a lot of the other companies in the software space, and not just in ERP. I think about my biggest business challenges. That's it, right?
Yeah.
Can I keep what's great about us great while we expand to, work with many, many, many thousands more customers? That's a fun challenge.
Love the culture here at Acumatica. It's super, super cool. So let's talk a little bit about product now. So from like a product perspective, how does Acumatica stand out and rise above all this noise out there, if you will, in the ERP market? Because there's a lot of players, right? How do we stand out above everyone else?
I think there's a couple things. I mean, it's easy to talk about functionality. It's easy to talk about we have the best widget for X. I don't think that's always what it is. I think it's much more around usability, right? It's much more around how people can rapidly onboard into the product and rapidly see progress and time to value. That's a huge part of it. And we've done so much work on usability as a team, all the way back to the original founding of the company. But even now, we're revising that platform all the time with things like our modern UI. Usability is a huge component. I think our APIs, how you configure, the product is so unique. I think it's so much easier to do things you want to do in Acumatica versus other things. It's off the shelf is great. Okay. But I want to make sure this internal system is hooked in correctly. I want to make sure I'm getting data in the way I want it. And I think we create, flexibility. Flexibility is also a problem. Like if we give too much flexibility, it means customers can do things that hamper performance in some cases.
Right.
But so finding the boundary between, flexibility and which we really, really, really care about, and performance is hard. But we've done a very good job of that. And so customers that want to work with us find that balance. Partners like to promote it that way. So you can get into all the specific data and functionality, but I like those two things a lot. I like saying it's the most usable, easy to kind of onboard platform. And it's also the one where, if you have difficult needs, there's things you can do to make it work. Now, let's go beyond that for a second. I think that increasingly it's about data, and AI plays an amazingly important role.
Right.
And I think that, and I think because of our status as the cloud ERP, because of our modern platform, because of thousands of customers that we manage in our cloud, it gives us the ability to do really customer first things with AI that others can't replicate. We've started a very interesting and exciting journey there. I think most of our mid-market SMB companies are still watching. If you're a $20 million construction company, you don't have an AI strategy. You want to bet on software companies that are going to do that. You want to know that you're getting help from your system in automation and assistance, whatever it happens to be. And so I think we have a really exciting chance to bring very pragmatic AI to this set of thousands of customers in a way that makes them more productive. And that to me is very different. Like, it's still in the formative stages. I can tell you what the end game is. But I know that it's going to be something that customers value greatly. And we're already seeing the beginnings of that. Again, the release we just did, back in January, same thing. And I think that for us is a very important, we're the backbone of these companies. We're their spine, right? We're their nervous system, however you want to say it.
Right.
And so the better we can do to make sure the product works for them is the only way we can continue to say that we have this amazing definable value.
One of the comments that you made in statements you made in one of your articles was, that SMBs have all the same challenges that these huge enterprises have, right? They just don't have the resources, whether it's people or financial resources, to tackle those problems, right? So that usability part becomes super, super important. And AI, they don't have time to go analyze AI systems and see how that, and what I love about our strategy is it's embedded. We use this term practical innovation for our customers, right? It's pretty powerful stuff.
And there'll be customers on the leading edge that will do things with our AI studio tools that are interesting. But there'll be customers who want to watch and want us to recommend. And I think the system will do more and more work for them. And I'm excited about that.
Yeah, I am too. Super cool. So as you look ahead, what's most exciting about where Acumatica is going?
Wow. That's a long list. I joke, but I mean it. I think, Acumatica and all of our community and ecosystem have this chance to put a real mark down in the world of technology. We have a chance to be a generational company. We have a chance to be, the next platform that everyone wants to evaluate. We had this unbelievable, like the foundation's there, the product foundation's there, the channel foundation's there, the success of thousands of customers is there. And so, what we get excited about is how do we see that really come true over the next 5 or 10 years? And I use this phrase a lot. We're just getting started. And you probably heard me say it a bunch of times. No matter what year it is, I still feel like we're just getting started. Right. And I think there are very few places in the industry where you could say that kind of thing. And I think we have the ability to take advantage of technology trends as they emerge and evolve. We have the ability to really work on, kind of customer perception and awareness of ourselves and our channel partners and our ecosystem. And I think that's a really unique place to be at a technology company, as a leader, you name it. Can we protect the culture, right? And can we make sure the product stays the same, amazing level of usability? Can we get, customers onboarded 75, 80% faster? That's what I get excited about.
Yeah, I do too. A lot of us do. Yeah.
We have to figure out what options we take. Like there's so much we could tackle, and we're still not, we're not an enormous company. We now have a great backer helping us think through those things. That to me is what's interesting, is like, how are we going to choose to, like, what are the steps that we take over the next 5 years? It'll be fun to watch.
Yeah, I agree. Super, super exciting. Okay, so you ready for the lightning round, John?
Lightning round? Okay, I'm not even sure what this is. Let's go. Yeah.
Okay, let's do it. Okay, first question. Describe your leadership style in 3 words.
It's positive, energetic, and collaborative.
Agree. Right. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Perfect. I witness it. So second question, what tool or habit keeps you sharp as a leader?
That I mentor on a lot. It's about figuring out ways of what it's this phrase I use, what charges your batteries and what doesn't charge your batteries. So what drains energy, what adds energy.
Yeah.
I think every person has to find their own balance. If you get very thoughtful about that habit, knowing there are things I want to do. I need to do some customer visits because that's really going to build up my energy. Every job, every avocation or vocation has parts you don't like. You got to find a balance with the parts that you really do like build from, that you feed off of. And that's a habit I like to create with people.
That's awesome. Love it. Okay. What book, podcast, or thinker has shaped your approach to leadership?
Wow. What's interesting is I don't read or listen to a lot of business books or podcasts, right? It's not my style. I
don't either.
Et cetera, et cetera. I read a lot of books, right? And I read a lot of books that are mostly history, mostly nonfiction, all those kinds of things. So I'm not sure there's one. I'm not sure I have one thing that's really shaped my style. I think it's been much more kind of something that's built up over many years. I think I'm a very different leader now than I was in my 20s and 30s. And it's more just watching. I love reading about historical figures and decisions that they made. And it helps me reflect on what decisions I'm making today.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that's a great answer. That's the best I got.
No, I think that's a perfect answer. And I think it plays right into that first question, which was about your leadership style. And you said collaborative. I imagine that you're always taking in all these sorts of different proof points to kind of evolve yourself as a leader. Yeah, I think that's awesome. Okay, and the last one, which is the big one, John, you ready for this one?
Oh, I don't know. Let's find out.
Let's find out. Okay, what one bold prediction do you have for the future of ERP?
Bold prediction. Wow. Okay. I think that we're eventually going to get to a point where the system can do work for you. Okay. And what I mean by that is so much of ERP today is still manual. It's still, hand connecting bank feeds. It's still, hand stitching invoices, writing paper checks. There's still so much there. And I think that we'll eventually reach a point, you could call it AI, you call it whatever you want to call it, where the system is effectively staffing your problem. And I'm really excited about that point. That's a few years away. But I think that we'll be able to say to companies, we now are delivering not just a software tool to you, we're delivering effectively a team to you. And I think that's really cool.
Yeah, no, I do too. And I love that, right? Because, and it's not about like eliminating, it is about eliminating costs, but not people, but allowing people to focus on what's more strategic. Yeah. Totally. Cool. This has been awesome. Thank you so much.
Good. You bet, David. We'll talk to you soon.
John, thanks so much for joining us on the very first Acumatica ERP podcast. Thank you to our listeners. We hope you enjoyed hearing John's perspective on where Acumatica stands today, the values that guide our community, and how we're helping customers build the future of business together. Be sure to subscribe to the Acumatica ERP podcast so you don't miss any upcoming episodes. And be sure to visit Acumatica.com frequently for resources, product insights, updates, and more. Thank you and have a nice day.